In the entire space of anti-aging and healthy aging, one of the most important topics is one that is very under-discussed and you may not even be aware of, and that's muscle balance. So throughout your body, every muscle has an opposite muscle, and they have a certain ratio that nature intended for them to be in to function better and to mainly protect the joint that's between them. Now, once they come out of that ratio, which they very commonly do, you now have a muscle imbalance, which means that ultimately you're just asking for problems with that joint that's between them. It means your movements probably won't be as good, and the joint is going to be less likely to perform well and to be pain-free as the years go by. Now, a short term muscle imbalance isn't such a bad thing, but when you have one for years or even decades, that's where the joints really fall apart and we start to lose posture, we lose balance, we lose that pain free mobility that keeps us healthy. So, I'm going to explain to you here how you can identify muscle imbalances, what you can do to correct them, and how you can be more preventive without even needing a gym membership or anything like that, so that you can help to keep your muscles in the balance that nature intended. Before I get into all the great information I have here for you, please be sure to click like and subscribe. And as I'm talking, please comment down below and leave a question. I'll respond to every question that I get. All right, that said, first let me explain that the ratios necessary differ widely throughout the body. So if you look above the knee, you've got the quadricep muscle in front and the hamstring muscle behind it. They don't want a 1-to-1 ratio. Okay, they want about a 4-to-3 with the quadricep being stronger, or even a 3-to-2 from the quadricep to the hamstring. Anywhere in there will keep the knee pretty healthy. Now, when we look at biceps and triceps brachii, for example, totally different. They need a 1-to-1. And your core, like your abdominal muscles as compared to the lower back muscles, the paraspinals behind the abdominals, that should be about a 1 to a 1.2 ratio. All right, talk about getting specific. So we know this clinically. We know that this is ultimately where the musculoskeletal system operates at its best and joints can really function and move properly, where we're not causing any stress on the nerves and we're not potentially damaging the joint capsule. Okay, they get to work in the way that nature expected. I like to think of this as sort of comparing to the tire pressure in your car, the PSI. If you drove around with all your tires being at different pressures, that would age the car, the suspension, things would start to slowly crumble, right? Think of that same kind of treatment for your joints and how the muscles around them need to be in the right ratio. All right, so that said, so how do you identify a muscle imbalance? Well, we can start with the biceps and triceps. Now, if you find that the maximum amount of weight that you can pull up with your biceps is less or higher than what you can perform with an elbow extension for your triceps brachii, then we don't have a 1-to-1 ratio, do we? And we want, for that area, a 1-to-1 ratio. So this is where you start to get clues as to which muscles you need to train more and which ones you need to train a little less. So if you find that you were to have hypothetically a bicep to tricep strength ratio of like a 2-to-1, which would be pretty wild, but let's just say you do. If it's 2-to-1, then okay, we need to really slow down on the bicep strength training and we need to really improve the triceps work. We're going to need to look at potentially more weight, more total volume, or training time. Maybe it's the way you're training that's not really working for the weaker muscle, that maybe you need to, for example, just go a little bit deeper with it, have better kinesthetic awareness, etc. The point is you want to fix those imbalances and get them closer to the ideal. The closer you get all of your muscles and their antagonists to the ideal resting tension, the better off your joints are going to be. Now, I'm going to give you two indicators of muscle imbalances, okay? The first one is if your posture, anywhere in your body, really, if a resting posture is not quite right, so let's say your pelvis is tilted forward or your shoulders are rounded forward like this, or if your head is in this kind of, we call it tech neck, this kind of pulled forward position, all of that indicates that you have muscle imbalances, that some muscles are too strong and they're pulling you out of alignment, and other muscles behind them are a little bit too weak or overstretched and they're not doing their job very well. So that's the first way you know, is about your body's alignment. And a simple posture assessment can give us some good clues there. The other thing is when joints are painful, because like I said earlier, muscle imbalances can pretty easily lead to painful joints. So what's happened to me a lot in my career is a client will come to me and say, I have bad knees, I can't squat. And I'll say, okay, talk to me about what's going on with your knees. Is it pain? Is it tightness? What is it? And generally, tight knees or painful knees are usually the quadriceps are too strong for the hamstring muscles behind them. That is very, very, very common. So I'll do a bit of a strength test and I'll find that their quadriceps are maybe twice as strong as their hamstrings. Okay, so we're probably going to need to stretch the quadriceps more, going to reduce some of that resting tension, and we're going to build the strength and the endurance of the hamstrings. Generally speaking, when you do that, someone's knee pain either is eliminated completely or it's at least greatly reduced after a few weeks or so, sometimes even just within a few short days. So the power of correcting muscle imbalances can be tremendous. You can gain mobility in a short amount of time just by giving the body what it needs with the right resting tensions. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, how does sports fit into all this? Unfortunately, sports generally cause muscle imbalances. And the reason is, even though you're using a lot of your muscles when you're playing a sport, there are generally just a few key muscles that perform the main movements behind that sport. So let's say, for example, you're playing golf, all right? You're always going to be swinging in the same direction. You're always going to be using the same few muscles to perform that swing. It's not like you're doing a whole lot with the quadriceps or the calves. So those muscles get a lot of activity, therefore generally making them stronger and having more muscle tone. And then other muscles get somewhat left behind. So it's not that way for every sport, but for most sports, that's the way you want to think of it, is that you're generally going to be creating more muscle imbalances than you're going to be fixing. And really the same can be said for your activities of daily living. As you go throughout your day, you're going to be favoring certain muscles. You're going to be giving some muscles, like the hip flexors, lots and lots of work to do. And then other muscles are just doing very little. They're firing a little bit here and there. And ultimately, they're in more of a state of atrophy where other muscles could be gaining more and more tension. I hope this video has been helpful. Please be sure to like and subscribe so you get more videos like this in the future. Comment down below with your questions. And of course, you can contact me yourself. My phone number is in the description. As always, I'm looking forward to your health and your wellness success.